The Insanity of Giving Back, the Kings and Queens of New Orleans Comedy, brought to you by our community health.
Welcome, everyone. Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Kim DeLosa. Everybody calls me the godmother of NOLA. I created this platform, The Insanity of Giving Back, during my Kellogg Foundation Fellowship. I created it because I need to check on who people are not checking on. Like, we are supposed to be on all the time. Nobody is asking, how you doing? How your mom and them? They call and say, this person is homeless, can you give me some clothes? Leslie, can you come and do this show for me? Never asking how your mama doing. So it's an insanity. It's an ignored insanity for somebody to expect you to be on 100% of the time, and they don't expect you to cry, they don't expect you to get angry. We're checking on different public sectors. And today, we're doing comedians, and I was inspired by Rickey Smiley. So you all know Rickey just buried his firstborn. This is what he posted. I have to sit here and do comedy while my insides rot, shaking my head. This shit gets worse by the day. Then seeing other good people go through this and you can't do nothing to save them. Then I gotta perform all weekend, sit in the back of a van and cry, headed to get laughs. A real part of me is dead. Also, no matter what I do, where I go. If I didn't have other kids and grands, I would be gone by now. And my son's mother probably feels this times 20. It's a non-stop nightmare. So that was my first inkling, like, I wonder if I should be checking on our comedian. And then when the DC Young Fly tragedy happened, I said, oh hell no, I damn well know I need to check on our comedians. How do you make people laugh when all hell broke loose? How do you get on stage because you know this is what pays the bills. I got to keep the lights on. But in your personal world, all hell is breaking loose.
My name is Detrice Smith-Jones, and I am the Chief Executive Officer here at our community health. We are located at 91 West Lake Expressway, Suite 440 in Gretna, Louisiana. Our community health is proud to be the service anchor for the Insanity of Giving Back platform, exploring the mental health disparities that exist among community leaders and caretakers is much needed. If you or someone you know needs mental health services, please contact us at our community health. Our number is 504-584-0300.
At the last workshop we did, it was some of the most famous, most well-known political leaders literally having public breakdowns in this workshop, screaming, we don't have a place to be vulnerable. This is the first time somebody ever gave us a place to be vulnerable. Nothing's off limits. Nothing's on the table. You're literally helping not only other comedians, but people in entertainment in this city, period. We are at the helm of one of the greatest, y'all. The greatest moderator. WDSU's own Gina Swanson. And we want this conversation to be organic. We know you all are comedians, but at the end of the day, we're filming this because we want other comedians to look at it and be like, you know, some of them might say, damn, I fucked up. I got to get my mental together. So with that being said, Gina.
Thank you, Kim. I'm so excited to be able to have this conversation today, and particularly in an intimate setting. You know, you always are in the audience looking for somebody or, you know, trying to get a laugh out of somebody, but this is an opportunity for us to have, like, a real conversation. And it's to the point where mental health has almost become like a buzzword. Like, people are like, oh, check on your friend, or check on your strong friend, check on this, check on that. I don't know if anybody's really doing that. And so we always hear about self-care and all these things. Out of all the people that you always think about and you check on, I never honestly consider comedians. We know a lot of times comedy can come from a dark place. You know, a place of trauma that you're trying to yourself process, so you can process it through comedy or whatever may be going on.
My name is Brandon Haynes. I've been doing comedy for like 2 years. I'm a computer and I read all the emails for the city. So you send something to the mail, I'm in the email.
Hi, my name is Terry Scott. I first took the stage in 2008 on a dare. Something about me nobody knows. I eat my pecan pie from the cross up.
I'm Mark Caesar. Fun fact about me, I've been doing stand-up comedy since I was 15 years old.
I've been doing comedy since about 2009. And fun fact about me,
I'm Smiley Da Comedienne. And I've been doing comedy since 2018. And a fun fact about me is everybody know I like to dance. So I don't know. That's still a fun fact though.
I'm DC Paul. I've been doing comedy since 2014. I'm not from DC. This is kind of a misconception. I'm from New Orleans. But the fun fact about me is I would rather slice my banana up with a knife and eat it than put it in my mouth at this table.
I'm downtown Lesli Brown. Fun fact about me, I need that baby to be quiet while I'm talking because it's about me, sis. Thank you. Yes, I really do sound like this. No, I do not smoke cigarettes. No, my mama did not feed me cayenne pepper as a baby. And no, I do not sleep with my fist balled up. I am half the size and double the rough. They just make us like that in the Second Ward.
What motivated you to get on the stage, whether it's like the happiest day of your life or the saddest day of your life? What is it that said, you know what, let me try to explore this comedy thing? Like, was it just you felt like you had to make some kind of social commentary, or where did it come from?
Girl, you look at me in my eyeballs, I got fired. I gotta do something. Sure, ain't nothing like getting fired. I say, you know what, trying to step into something else, you know?
But when you got fired, was that like a sad moment? Were you like depressed in that time? Or what was the motivation to just say, you know, let me try this?
You know what, it was actually Shaq Brown. Him and I graduated from Joan Mac together, and he always been trying to get me to step into this comedy bag, as the youngsters would say, because he always just considered me funny, and I was like, yeah, I'm funny, but I'm not on stage funny. I really dealt with imposter syndrome, like, man, do I belong? You know, and it was the same way when I worked in radio, because a lot of people didn't respect the way that I got into radio, you know, no schooling, just straight, raw, from the streets. Coming from being a rapper, saying, man, look, I'm going to just do radio because, yeah.
But people used to always tell me I was funny. Like, I'd be in church trying to be serious, and they'd be dying laughing. I'm like, nah, Jesus, blah, 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 and they'd laughing. And I'm like, and people like, man, yo, look at comedy. And I thought you needed an agent and all that good stuff. And I just went up and started doing it, and the rest is history. Yeah, but I got fired from the church. You know, because like, on Sunday after church, I'd be rushing through the sermons to go watch the Saints game and drink beer. And they were like, nah, dog, we don't need you around here.
Yeah.
But I did after church. We rebuilt the church after Katrina and got it up, you know, got it built up. So,
like I said, I got to the stage on a dare in 2008. And my first show, people laughed. And it became contagious, you know. And I was always a class clown. But I never saw myself as being funny. So I adopted an alter ego because I was a business person. And certain things I get on stage and say, I couldn't tell the business person. So I got on stage to let out the frustrations as a black businessman I had to deal with. So I got on stage, created an alter ego, and just can say and do everything. And that took a lot of stress off me, and I just been having fun ever since.
When you first start out, it's a very stressful and nerve-wracking thing, but once you get into it, and if you stick with it, it's absolutely a stress reliever. Probably not the healthiest, because it depends on people's response to you. And even though you could always be amazing and perform the joke, the same amazing timing every time, their response to you sometimes can kind of
make you question yourself.
Sometimes.
That's what's like, it has to be stressful trying to make people laugh if they sit there like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can take that face off.
If you take it serious, it is.
But if you don't take it too serious, they can just have fun even when they're, you know, it's hard to not take it and yourself too seriously, but when you're up there and, you know, people's response can kind of dictate your mood after you get off stage. You know?
I've always wanted to be in entertainment, not just stand up. I want the act and all of that. And but I tried to finish school because I'm the only person in my family with a high school diploma, let alone a degree. So now a degree, you know, because my little cousins came up. But then I got married early, had kids at 15 and all of that. So once I finished that and got my last degree, and my master's, I was like, I'm about to do everything I wanted to do. And that was make people laugh, and that was it.
Is it comedy for y'all or for us?
Oh, man.
It's me. Like, I don't know why, I just enjoy ribbon. Like, it's like in my mind, I done picked everybody apart, and I'm like, all you gotta do is just step across that line, and I'm gonna review. I'ma just do it, And you know what I mean? Coming from New Orleans, everybody funny, everybody real, you know what I mean? And the hardest transition is taking that regular neighborhood, family, friend funny and then put it on stage. Like, man, every time I get on stage, it's like I'm so nervous. I can't eat the day that I got a show. I don't drink alcohol. A lot of people think that I just be drunk or whatever.
You sound like that regular.
Yeah, regular. This is just straight regular. Like, I don't drink until after my show is over, and that calms me down. But the alcohol is just gonna add anxiety to me. You know what I mean?
You walk around kind of questioning yourself, and that's just an internal thing. But then when you're out on stage in front of people, you're kind of projecting that onto them too. Like, now they're also questioning and judging you, even if they're not. You know, it's just an intensified insecurity if it already exists.
Even when you bomb, it helps you because it gives you tough skin. And you have to have tough skin not only dealing with audience and being around comedians, because like Leslie said, you know, we rib each other and do a lot of things. But the point is, with me, I can just speak for me personally, it's just stress relief for me. And my comedy is about me, it's for me. So if you happen to get a smile based on something I said, that's good. But if you don't, I'm gonna walk away not feeling any less of a person because you don't see me being funny.
That's how I feel about sex.
You know.
So like I put on Black Girl Giggles Comedy Festival, and it's hell. But like the importance of it is that like Black women, all people actually, I'm going down the wrong tangent, need to see themselves represented in a free way, and that's what stand-up does. So when Smiley gets on stage, you know, you talked about having kids young, it's women in that audience who might have just popped up in the show, be dealing with all types of stuff, and then Smiley tells her stuff, and they go, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they feel a little bit better. It's people that have been through everything we've been through, and they get that release, and it's very important for the audience and for the comedy.
At any point in this, does it become, are you a performer and you're putting like kind of a buffer between yourself and the audience, or and you see yourself as a performer? Or is it always authentically you every time? Or do you feel like you have to do a little extra performance or what have you?
It's a little a mixture of both. If you like doing it right, you know, you're gonna need a buffer because every audience gonna be the same. You gotta read the room and put on the proper buffer. But if you won't succeed if you're not being authentic.
It's gonna show if you're not authentic.
with that buffer. So,
and especially like being with Black comedy, you gotta be real. You gotta be barbershop level, you know, you gotta be like, because people can see through the fakeness. They can see through an image, so that's not really him. He's not really, you know, he's not really married, he don't really have kids, that type of thing. So I really gotta be really authentic and bring it down to a level where people can understand. But it's like you said, it's 50-50. It's a persona, but it's really you coming to that persona. You know?
Do you have to do this, or have you found like you are able to still do this if you are dealing with personal tragedy? You talked about Rickey, Smiley, talked about DC Young Fly. Have any of you had to perform or put on a show when you were dealing with a personal tragedy or trauma?
Yeah.
Somebody talk about that.
Well, my dad died in 2017, but he went into the hospital, and then maybe over the course of like maybe a week or so passed, and then a few days later, the funeral. I had shows, and not that they were paying so much that I couldn't cancel, but that was kind of that was my bread and butter at the time. And on the night of his funeral, I did a comedy show in the suit that I wore to the funeral, and I justified it to myself, saying that like, you know, I've had the proper time to, you know, handle things and grieve, and sure, I can go do 15 minutes at a bar, have a couple of drinks, and go back to the grief and whatnot. Like, I, to myself, compartmentalized that while still being able to dance around and do that. And I don't know if it was the best, like, the healthiest thing for me to do at the time. But I mean, it was just 15 minutes in front of the audience. And I didn't even, like, have jokes about my dad. So it was, you know, taking my mind off of it, but also, like, hiding from it at the same time.
That part, I definitely feel that, DC, because I have boo-boo kids or whatever, but when I say boo-boo kids, I have 3 boys, but I had my first child at 15, and also coming from where I'm coming from, my family isn't educated, so I've always kind of try to put that first, every thought that my family isn't first, and then myself, which is me. I'm just chilling back, don't shake my ass, tell some jokes, and be happy, and watch the sun come up and shit. Like, but life be happening. Like right before a show, something will happen. Like a kid, something going on. So then I have to deal with that right before a show, and it's really my peace. Like my best friend, she died during COVID, and I had to go to a show, and I'm booked, and I'm like, I could cancel, but I'm gonna be so mad at myself if I cancel, because I know this right here is what's gonna help me get over it.
To me, comedy has always been a hobby for me. You know, some people hunt, some people fish. For me, it's a hobby. You know, and I never had to chase a dollar with comedy. So when I'm around these guys who actually are performing and getting paid for that, you know, I admire them for doing that. But the big thing to me is it's just a hobby for me. And I use it to benefit me if I'm pissed off or if I'm having issues like with DC Car. I had a sister pass away and things like that. So it helps me to release that stress that's getting on stage and talk about.
Oh, he got that money.
That's why you be wearing them shirts.
I smell it from across the table.
I saw this documentary on Vice called The Dark Side of Comedy, and it talked about addiction, suicide, and self-destruction.
Yeah.
Is that something in this industry, I'm imagining, could be prevalent? Have you experienced any of these things, any of you, or have you used substances to cope with, you know, being in this industry?
Her face so serious.
Of course not.
It's very prevalent in comedy because I read a long time ago that being a good comic means that you are very observant and you see stuff in patterns and behaviors that the rest of the world doesn't see, and that can be very overwhelming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, like, I'm in my 40s and I'm just realizing that I most likely have ADHD. Like, no one ever put the pieces together. And like, being able to like focus on different things at once. Like, what makes me bad in the office makes me great on stage. But I tried to work in the offices all that years, and that's a lot to deal with. So like, I drink. Now I start doing mushrooms. Weed gives me too much anxiety, but like, we all do those things to feel normal at times. You know what I mean? Like, to quiet the mind down and be able to focus on things. So it's a lot of drug use in comedy. It's a lot of alcohol in comedy because we all need it because we're different types of people than the people in the audience most times. Then on top of that, like, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position all the time. So the drugs and alcohol make that easier to do. And then, like you said before, comedies, people come out of a dark place and you're still trying to solve those old wounds. So like we're definitely a bunch of self-medicators, and it can go too far. And with like the suicide, I don't know anybody, like, far as my comedian friends, who hasn't tried it or thought about it or deeply thinks about it, to the point where me and some of my comedian friends, we have a system, like, cause we get down and we don't talk to people for days, and you never know if somebody's gonna pop back up. Where we like, if somebody texts you and you just can't communicate or you don't want to reach out, we do like we have an emoji. But then, because I know these people also understand me, it helps me way better than I feel like if I hadn't started doing comedy. I don't know if I'd be here.
Most time, everybody talks about the creativity that's associated with drug use and from singing, doing comedy, anything. There's a creative point that helps you to do better on stage.
I experienced like the loneliness of doing comedy. So I went out of town for like 2 days, 3 days, something like that. And so while you're on the road, nobody with you. You're in a hotel by yourself. And the only time you really see people is at the show. And it's a high. You're like, oh my God, you're so amazing. And then, okay, good night. And you're back in the room by yourself. You can only watch porn or so long. You want to jack off, but I'm old, so I'm going to get one. But then it's so lonely. And like, I'm calling my family, hey, what y'all doing? Dad, I'm doing my homework. Hey, babe, what you doing? Call my wife. I'm watching Lifetime. You want FaceTime? No, I'm watching Lifetime. And you're in the room by yourself, and it gets lonely. And I can see how people turn to drugs and alcohol and all this crazy shit. And I didn't have no money, so I couldn't go to a strip club. And I was in Atlanta, so I was having all these things. And then I went to this comedy festival. And that was a whole other thing. Because now I'm in LA, I'm broke. And I'm lonely in a hotel by myself. And the only time I'm really seeing people
You about to
is
sell
at the...
ass?
The only time I'm seeing people is at the festival. And then I'm back in the Uber, back to the room. And I'm in the room 2 o'clock in the morning, like, damn, this boring. I don't have my kids to talk to, my wife to talk to. side chicks ain't answering the phone.
About to say, you boring. You want to talk to your wife
But
again?
that's the thing. But it's like when you around people, like I live in a house that's always something happens. 2 kids, like everybody ain't making noise, fighting each other, and now I'm in silence, and I'm just in there with my thoughts, and I can see how people go over top. You know,
that goes a lot to your personality.
Yeah.
You know, because if I'm in LA, I'm a party animal for an old man. You know, you know, if I'm in LA, I'm in Atlanta. I'm not going back to the hotel room. Really, I got money in my pocket now. I'm gonna go out and have a good time. I'm gonna socialize. So it goes back to your personality.
That's true.
You know how you feel about people.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I actually thrive in like the alone time after being in front of a whole lot of people. Yes, indeed, the alone time before and after that. Absolutely.
Man, that's weird because I just don't like people.
Well, I like people, but once you like having to exert so much energy and also like receive so much energy and there's different energies. Yeah, I need to. Even with the drinks and the blunt, I need to be alone.
Let me ask you this: do you need a drink and a blunt or whatever to go on stage? Is it a criteria?
I'm from the churches and school.
Some people felt like they had to have those things.
People do, but I mean, no, you don't need it. I'm probably gonna have one to like calm down. Like I needed to like tamp me down. You know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense? Yeah.
I'm more of a smoker, so drinking, I'm not. I have 1 or 2 to be sociable, but I smoke as soon as I wake up. Like, so going on stage, like that's just my normal way of living. It's not to like a crutch or anything. So yeah, I'm happy.
And I actually hosted a comedy show, and Leslie was one of the comedians. You want something to drink? She's like, just bring me a water. I'm like, water? That's all you want? And I went back and got. But it was almost like she was in a trance, trying to get ready.
Yeah, going on stage, going over like your order material, getting your nerves together. Is such and such out there in the audience? How many people there?
Have you been in a position where you've seen your fellow comedians to get to a point where you were concerned? How do you deal with that?
It all depends on the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, some people make real friendships, and if you know your friend's going through something, you have more license to approach them about it, you know, rather than just as a comedy colleague. You know.
And one of the things that on the email that I got from Kim, it asks us these questions. You know, and one question is surround yourself by people who can tell you the truth, to let you know. And I guess because of my age and the fact that I got a great beard, people think I have wisdom. You know, people are like free to talk to me and let me know what's going on with them.
And then you say something crazy like this nigga don't not wise.
I mean, I guess for me, you know, I've always considered myself to be socially awkward. Ever since I was like doing radio and everything, so I've never really built connections. I knew everybody at the table, but in all honesty, I perform, I talk, I make people laugh. They be like, this is funny, she crazy about it. And then next thing you know, they be like, what else doing? Like I dip out and I just go home. It's like I'm really like, because it's like, man, I don't know, am I too much? It's like I just don't know. So I've always been socially awkward and I never allowed myself to make connections with people. Again, it's that imposter syndrome, and it probably come from just me being younger. You know what I mean? My mama, her picker was off. You know what I mean? Like from dating my daddy to dating a guy that was an alcoholic. I was scared to have friends come over to the house because you know he was one of those, you know, curse you out, you some come catching ass hoes up in here type of. You know what I mean? Just like, man, how you come and go catch? I was so confused because you know at a young age, but it's almost like you know what embarrassment is, and then to come up poor and to realize that how cliquey New Orleans is. If you don't have this and you don't have that, like I was one of those people that was happy when they made us wear uniforms because oh my God, you don't see exactly what I don't have. You know what I mean? I just don't make connections. So it almost come across as if I don't care about your mental health, or maybe I just don't want you to dig deeper into mine because I'm not the happiest person. But when I come outside, I make a conscious decision to be outside and to be on. And I'm always funny. Every time I take jokes, I take things, I flip it. Just because, like, man, I'm always gonna flip it to be funny because, man, if I get flipped, then ain't nobody gonna be laughing in this bitch. You feel what I'm saying? Like if I click, then yeah, shit ain't gonna be funny.
You in such a dark place, but you're living a public spotlight, so you even gotta wait on that. Like, how do I get rid of myself and make this look good? Because you know that it's unhealthy to keep this stuff locked in, but you're in a public spotlight. You know this pain has to end. But if you end it this way, Kim, you're going to be on TMZ tomorrow. They're going to be talking crazy about you.
Do you think that that is a trauma response from just your experiences growing up? Like that you, I guess, resist having like an intimate connection with someone?
My mama coddled my brother. She had 5 girls and 1 boy, and she like, oh my God, are you okay? But, you know, it's like, shit, don't let nobody hit you, don't let nobody ride your bike. Bitch, you ain't gonna hit me, you ain't gonna ride my bike. They raised the girls to be, you know, and, I mean, I don't know, Gina, you know? Like, at some point, you don't know if you're strong or you just desensitized, you know what I mean? A fun fact about me, I lost 95% of the skin on my body in 2009. Like, I was misdiagnosed, had chemical burns, you know, from my neck all the way down to my feet. Like, I'm talking about all my skin gone. Y'all don't even see the pictures. I ain't know what happened to me. The doctors ain't know what happened. Like, I hid behind radio. You know what I mean? Because it was like, man, I just dealt with these emotional things by myself. I wear long sleeves all the time. And people be like, you ain't hot? Like, yeah, bitch, I'm sizzling. Ain't I'm sexy? You know, because I still have scars that y'all probably don't see. I see them. Yeah. Man, I'm like an onion that needs to be unpacked, but in all honesty, like, shit, I just feel like I just want to unpack myself. Like, I can even think of people I hated, but I didn't want anybody to go through the pain that I was going through. And I don't know, like, I'm so real that turned people off. Social media is taking us out this realm of what's real, what's fake, what's acceptable, what look good, what you gotta do, let me tell you, I don't care how big I think I am, they still got somebody that'll eat me like the Last Supper, hello? You know, at the end of the day, man, stop taking this life so serious, don't none of us make it out alive.
I have time blindness, so this is gonna make me late. Now, oh my God, now it's 20 minutes later, they're probably all talking about me, probably hate me, now it's an hour later and I haven't left the house yet. So yesterday when I had to be somewhere, another comic like came to my house so that somebody was there to keep me accountable so that I could shower and get to the event where I need to make money. And we all do it for each other. Now, not all of us, like you might have your one person that does that, but like talking about it, which ironically is very hard to do despite this is literally what I do for a living, is talking about shit that don't nobody else want to talk about.
And you know, your wife or whoever, your kids, whatever, but you gotta find your tribe that you can just vibe with.
Identify an outlet that's something that brings you back, a touch of reality. Some people have bands that they pop on their wrist or, you know, things that they click in their hands. Just something to bring you back in touch to the here and now.
When I first started comedy, I used to have a fidget spinner. I don't know if you remember that. I used to have tons and tons of fidget spinners, and I used to do all my sets, the little spinning things.
Oh yeah.
I used to have, I done a whole photo shoot with. Where were you? At work?
And I go in the bed for like 2 hours, and I wake up and feel refreshed.
Just some me time.
And I realize it don't have to be too deep, just go take it now. Take it goddamn now.
The things that we do in our day-to-day comes from our childhood that's hardwired us to show us this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be taking care of people because then we'll be accepted. We'll be looked at as valuable. And so a lot of times we have to step back and figure out, hey, I'm valuable without taking care of these 1,000 people, making them laugh, making sure that they have what they need. I'm still going to be okay.
Do you think that conversations like this, or at least this moment that we've had today, has been helpful or could be helpful for other people, one? And then two, if you had to give advice about other comedians and protecting their peace or people who work in a public spotlight, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah, I think this conversation has been very helpful, especially learning that they are providing or offering discounted mental health services. I didn't know that our community health did that, so that's awesome. And if I'm in any position to give advice, I would just say make sure you prioritize your off-stage time, your off-stage wellness in general, you know.
Practice empathy. You know what I'm saying? Like when, because we forget that everybody's going through something. Yeah. And then with comedians being very absorbent. You know what I mean? Like we take it on, and then like it took a lot for me to realize, oh, whatever the other person doing is not about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that's one less load I have to bear. Allowing people to help you and talk to people, and talk to people without performing.
Right.
I had a white man, older white man, and he just sat there, and he just had his legs crossed, and he just was looking at me. He was like, "Oh, okay." And I was going through a divorce and everything, and I was like, "That's why I don't fuck white people right there." Yeah. That made me feel. That's a whole nother therapy session about white people. But then I found the lady who I talked to, and I really don't think about things. Like I keep everything buried. Like I eat like. Red Meat Monday is on a Tuesday for me. Like, I'm always delayed. I don't know why. We still trying to figure that out. Yeah, I'm dead. I'm always a step behind or something. Like my reactions are late, this and that, and it's not the weed. It's just I'm just always. She said I bury a lot of things.
What's the biggest misconception?
That I'm always smiling. That I'm always happy, I'm always in a good mood, and I'm not.
Comedy isn't like an inherently toxic place, but if you're not taking care of yourself, the deeper you go in, it can get crazy. The comedy world has a lot of pitfalls and a lot of traps that can like definitely trigger mental health issues, but they're probably already there. You know what I'm saying? So like it's the ignoring, taking care of yourself, eating well, exercising, taking care of your bills, taking care of your mental state, and now you're in this very intense environment. You know what I'm saying? So like comedy isn't like an inherently toxic place, but if you're not taking care of yourself, the deeper you go in, it can get crazy.
Through laughter and love, we bring ourselves together to check on each other, to care for the caretakers. But who's really asking, how you doing? How your mama doing? And we need to check, because what's a laugh without a cry? We know it all well in New Orleans, a Mardi Gras mask of it all. How do you still make people laugh when all hell has broken loose? What else are we connected to? Community health, community wealth. We come together to help, to heal, to hold. We may be with comedians, but certainly this is no laughing matter. We are here to erase the stigma of mental health. It's beyond the buzzword of just checking on your strong friend. This is how we process trauma, from the computer nerd to the one who eats their pecan pie from the crust up, from the 15-year-old comedian to the ones who can't pinpoint the fun fact, to the dancer, to the banana cutter, to the ones half the size but double the rough, to the babies who are here to remind us of our inner child. Even when we try to quiet them, they still know the secret of play and joy. How often do we ask, do I belong? This is getting past the imposter syndrome. This is comedy. That's our ministry, especially when we were fired from the church. This is how we release, especially when we can't express ourselves as we are. What happens when people don't laugh, when they just stare? It takes a lot to still feel good about yourself, to still build your self-esteem. All we know is we're chasing this dream. And is it all that it seems? Is this about me, or you, or you, or you? What goes through your mind is, am I good enough? Look, you gotta have tough skin, they say. We can't turn this comic brain off. It's not weird. It is, though, that we have to see ourselves represented, because you won't succeed if you are not authentic. Why? Because the people will know. Through death and transition, we still show up, whether unprepared or moving through grief. Sometimes 15 minutes of distraction is a necessary coping mechanism. When a hobby turns into a holistic treatment for how we hold our hearts. Hold because we need to pause. Hold because we have to take a break before we jump back in. This is the dark side of comedy. There are patterns and behaviors underneath. There are substances, addictions, and observances. There are ways to deal, ways to stay in the light, even though the stage can be a drug in itself, if we let it. This is when the loneliness sets in. No telling what can happen. No telling what we hear in the silence or in the noise. No telling what we see in our brothers or sisters' eyes. Some things we can't joke ourselves out of. Well, we can be funny, because really underneath is a switch, a click that can go from funny to fear to fatal. All we know is that this pain has to end. When we can know a lot about people, but we still don't have a connection. Damn, Gina, These questions dig deep. These are things you can't see, the things we cover up. This is the shedding of skin. This is the rebirth, the remembrance, a right now way of life, because the reality is that therapy is needed. First step is acknowledging that help is needed to help us see what has been buried, what has been covered up, that needs to be seen, needs to be experienced. But this is what's real, because some who put 2 and 2 together get 22. Some who put 2 and 2 together get 4. But always you will get out what you do put in. Reality is that we ain't always smiling. We just trying to get it, trying to make it, trying to learn who we really are. Because there is a difference between being a comedian and a funny person. This is the mix of being hyper observant and awkward. But it's those moments that shows how to make lemonade, that there are steps and some other things that are needed to create the end product. This is a metaphor for art, for the craft. It's who we would be if we didn't have consequences, because it ain't no HR department here. We have to find ways to decompress, whether through fitness, through herbs, through isolation, through the intentionality of energy. We navigate this darkness moment by moment, one foot in front of the other, one conversation at a time. We show up for each other when the dishes pile up, through executive paralysis, through my own created experiences. We are finding ourselves able to tap into resources that can snap us back to our true selves, because we all know what it's like to make sure people ain't in our business. But here's the thing, our business been out. It's in our way. It's our secret thoughts and desires. It's our relationships and wants. This is why we prioritize our time, why it's important to know ourselves, to empathize but not internalize, to talk to people without performing, to go the extra step and show up for ourselves, to recharge, to reboot, to release, to know and to feel that whether laughing or crying, we are still worthy of care and all deserving of the best.